very exciting book review for you today. I literally just finished this book last night and I knew I wanted to do a book review on it. I don't tend to do many sort of like one-off book reviews lately, but this was just one that I knew I had to share with you because I really enjoyed it. And that book is Spaceman by Mike Massimino. He is an astronaut, if you couldn't tell. You may recognise him from being on The Big Bang Theory. He did guest star in a few episodes. I picked this up back when we were on our honeymoon in Florida, and I did sort of kind of make that connection that he was on The Big Bang Theory, but I was more intrigued at the fact it was about space and that it was a signed copy, which is very exciting. So there is his signature on the inside, and I was so excited to read this book. It did take me a bit longer than I thought, just because I haven't really had a lot of time to read this. I feel if I'd read it whilst I was on holiday, I would have like flown through it, pardon the pun, like in a day. It's a really easy read. I really enjoyed his writing style, and I'm really fascinated by NASA and astronauts and space in general. The thought of me personally going up to space scares the bejesus out of me, but the thought of other people going up to space and what could possibly be out there and how they like work and live on like the space station and in their rockets is really interesting to me. Obviously we are in Florida pretty much every year. We have a place out there, and obviously they have the Kennedy Space Center. Darren and I were planning on going whilst we were in Florida this year, but we didn't get a chance to go in the end. I have been there in the past, but I don't feel like I took full advantage of like the experience in being there. But I do remember I must have been like 7 or 8, like no older than 10 I'd say, and we were in Florida. I believe we were going to Cocoa Beach, and all of a sudden we saw like a little like fireball, like a glow in the sky, and we were like, oh my god, is that a shuttle? And like on the radio we quickly turned over and it was a shuttle launch, and we were on like a main highway and like loads of people were pulling over, so we pulled over and we just watched this rocket go up to space, and it was really cool to see. And like that's really my only experience of seeing a shuttle take off in real life. I've always wanted to go, like you see it like when they broadcast it on TV, they've got that big like countdown clock on that grassy area across like a lake, I think it is, from the actual rockets. I've always wanted to do that. And like be there like in person, but that's sort of the closest I've got to an actual rocket launch. So that's sort of my love for space at the moment. So I was really excited to read this, and for Christmas I've actually asked for Tim Peake's book, who is a British astronaut who was and is very popular because he was like the first British astronaut under the British, like he was actually representing Britain. He wasn't under like the American team or whatever, and he went up to the space station, and I've asked for his book for Christmas. So getting on a tangent, let's talk about the book we have in hand. So straight off the bat, I will tell you I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I loved the writing style of it. He does talk a bit about like his childhood and growing up, but it's not like you learn every like year of his life up until he becomes an astronaut. It gives you just enough detail about like his childhood and where his passion and ambition came from to want to be an astronaut, and that was really interesting. It was like just enough. It didn't like get to the stage where it like bored you. He didn't talk about like every like school exam he took and like every relationship he had up until like he met his wife. It was none of that. It was literally like the basics you needed to know and what you needed to know in relation to him becoming an astronaut, and that was really good. There are some pictures in the middle, which I didn't think there was until like I literally got like 50 pages away from the pictures, and again they're like a lot of them are more recent of him at NASA, which is cool. There's only like 2 pictures of him like working with other astronauts and things like that. So very heavily astronaut based, as you would imagine. And so this book, I feel, really gives you the information on stuff you want to know, or at least the stuff I wanted to know. So it talked about obviously how he had to apply and what exams he had to sort of take to get into even being like recognised for an application to become an astronaut. And then obviously it showed you all of the training he had, obviously while he was up in space, what they were up there to achieve. It goes through about his time in quarantine and how he's away from his family and dealing with very young children at the time. And I didn't realise how big of like a big family the NASA group is, and like the astronauts past and previous that work around the Kennedy Space Center and also in Houston and Texas. I didn't realise how much of like a family atmosphere they had, and this book really showed that. Mike's dad was really ill, and the doctors near him sort of dismissed him and said, you know, he's gonna die at some point. But Mike went back to his like astronaut mates and was like, is anyone can help me? Because obviously they've all studied in different fields, from like engineering, being a doctor, being vets, robotics, like a really wide range of things. And they managed to get him in touch with other doctors and helped to get him like blood transfusions and things like that, and loads of people were happy to like donate blood and blood pellets and things like that, and it just showed how much of a community they were, and how much they all came together. And in my imagination, I don't quite know if this is true, they all lived in like a neighborhood together, so like astronauts lived next to astronauts. I don't know how true that is, but that's what it felt like. It felt like sort of like an army camp where you have like all the families living next door to each other. That's what it felt like. One thing I found really interesting to see was, especially working in optics, was how Mike's vision actually prevented him from becoming an astronaut at the start. He applied twice, I believe, before he became an astronaut, and they accepted him onto the program. And he was initially rejected because of his eyesight. He was very short-sighted, I believe, like me, and obviously they don't allow you to wear glasses in space, because if they get knocked off, and like they want you to have perfect vision, and if like something were to happen with your glasses, that sort of thing, and like going on spacewalks, it can be hard. Again, I don't think they're keen on contacts either. And Mike had this revolutionary like trial where they implanted, like, it was like contact lenses into his eyes that helped to reshape the cornea, I believe, to try and perfect his vision. And that was really interesting to read about. Obviously I work with glasses and optics, so that was interesting to read about, and how like he was willing to do anything to get onto this program. He, like, his determination really shone through this book. Like, he wasn't about to let a physical trait of himself like prevent him from getting onto this program. And he did so much research and did like so many different exams and things to try and like stand out from the crowd. But really, he found out what was the main reason they accepted him on the program was his actual personality. Because so many people apply to be astronauts, they all have like the same qualifications or varying of the same qualifications, but really they said it was his personality and his humour and like lightheartedness that they wanted, and his determination is what they wanted on their program. So that was really cool to see, and it is one of those books that makes you really determined in life and makes you want to go and grab your dreams, and it is a really inspiring book. So whether you're interested in space or not really, if you're looking for just an inspirational book and like you're looking for that bit of drive in your life, this is a good book to read. I really enjoyed it. Obviously it also does talk about some of the disasters that happen from the NASA programs. I'm gonna put this down because it's starting to hurt my hand. So obviously they had two major like incidences. You had the Challenger, I believe, which was when the rocket went up and it pretty much exploded within seconds of launching. And then you had Columbia, which was actually the space rocket that Mike went on. So basically they are all the space launches are numbered. They're numbered STS. I'm not quite sure what that stands for. If I can find that, I will insert a little annotation. STS and then a number. So Mike's one was STS-109. That was his space launch program number. And before then they had STS-107, and 107 obviously was supposed to launch before Mike's one, but due to different reasons it kept getting pushed back, and so STS-107 launched once Mike had come back off his space mission, and they had done work on the Hubble, which I forgot to mention, that is what he went up there for. He didn't go to the space station, he went to the Hubble telescope, which was something he was really interested in. Anyway, so STS-107 launched after Mike's mission, and he was very friendly with a lot of the people on there, and he actually spoke to the crew like the evening before they were due to come back down. So they'd done all their missions up there, everything was fine. When they came back, the rocket basically shattered and exploded, and they found out that was because on launch a bit of the foam off the fuel engine, so you know you see that big orange like fuel tank linked to the little white spaceship, that a little bit of the foam off that, which is actually very light, flew off and hit one of the rocket's wings, and because of the speed and how much it had slowed down, it hit it at like 500 miles per hour, which broke, like, it obviously made a hole and broke the like heat seal in the wing. So when they were coming back down from space and entering the atmosphere, the heat that was coming from them coming back into atmosphere penetrated through that hole and caught fire to the rest of the wing. And obviously they didn't know that at the time. The crew was pretty much oblivious to that, probably until the last final seconds, and it was a really big thing for NASA, and they shut down their programs for a very, very long time. They didn't try and sweep it under the carpet. Excuse me. They knew that this was a serious problem that they had to investigate and deal with. And again, at this time, like, I don't personally remember this happening. It was like early 2000s, 2003 I believe, so I wasn't very old then, so I don't remember it sort of firsthand, but reading it, you just get this really somber feeling. You really feel what not only Mike's feeling, but the rest of like the NASA team are feeling, because they are so close-knit and so much like a family. You really felt that sense of loss, and it was really hard to read actually, and like Darren came in as I was reading it last night, and I was like, shh, they've just exploded. I was like, don't interrupt me. And obviously each astronaut that goes into space allocates another astronaut in the team who's not going up to be their family escort. And one of the guys on STS-107 asked Mike to be his family escort, but because of other ties he had, he wasn't able to be there at the time. He was out of the state. And obviously that was really devastating for him, because he was such good friends with this guy Rick, I believe, and he so wanted to be the family escort for them, but he went and like phoned the family anyway, to try and like help them out as much as he could. And again, that's not something that I knew happened. I didn't realise that they would allocate family escorts if like anything were to happen to them, or like to help them the lead up to the launch as well. And also it said in the book how the family, they have to pack their bags before they leave the hotel to go to see the launch for the rocket, because if something was to happen like whilst it was launching and like they knew that the astronauts had died, they wouldn't be going back to that hotel, and like the family escort would help arrange those bags to be collected, and he would basically do everything for the family, so like the wife or the husband didn't have to deal with it, and they could just like look after any kids and like focus on them. So again, it just really showed how much of a small community it felt and how much all the missions impacted each other, whether they were flying up there or not. It impacted every single person on that team. I think that's pretty much all I've got to wrap up with on this book. I just really enjoyed it. I love space and NASA, and I really want to try and read some more books, whether they be science fiction or non-fiction or fiction. I have read Across the Universe, that trilogy, and that's sort of set in space. I really enjoyed that. So if you've got any other sort of set in space books, whether they be fiction or non-fiction, leave a comment down below with your recommendations, because I really want to read some more. And like I said, I'm getting Tim Peake's book for Christmas as well, so that's slightly different. I don't think it's so much an autobiography, but just like questions he's been asked as an astronaut, so that, again, all the stuff we want to know. So that was my review of Spaceman by Mike Massimino. I think I'm saying his name right. Let me know if you've read it, what you thought of it. But yeah, I just really enjoyed this book, and definitely going to be in my collection for, if not a long time, forever. So I really have a special place in my heart for this book. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video and review, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.